Hey, Redbet here, and we starting this. It's our Friday news show, and it's a new segment that we're going to be starting. So I hope that you come and enjoy. If you have any questions, we can talk about it. But we're going to talk about the racing season that just concluded, with Formula One concluding, also the MotoGP season concluded. So this is the holiday season, and this is all the teams are on break right now. A MotoGP just finished testing in Valencia recently, so it's going to be very interesting. We're going to see what's going to happen in the 2024 season. So we're going to go over some news. So let me pick up the news that we're going to look at here. So first, we're going to talk about Ducati and Bagnaia. So Bagnaia was able to secure his second championship this year in MotoGP, and it was entertaining because up until the last race, Jorge Martin had a chance to win, and Jorge Martin, he wasn't able to win the race. He actually crashed out when he crashed into Marc Marquez, and that was on lap 6. But after that, what happened? Francesco Bagnaia was able to podium, and he was able to win his second MotoGP title. Unlike last year, this title was actually contested. So it's very interesting in terms of what he had to do. In terms of he was challenged the whole year. Last year he had. Who did he have last year? Yamaha, Fabio Quartararo. So Fabio Quartararo was the one last year who was challenging him, and then this year, that wasn't the case anymore. He was kind of challenged by Jorge Martin this year up until the most final race. So it was this season. MotoGP actually went down to the final race, which was interesting, right? So yeah, This is our Friday news show. We're just trying to set up here, so bear with us with any technical difficulties. I have. Oh, okay. So that's the music file. So, all right. So yeah, we're setting everything up here. So yeah, so Francesco Bagnaia, this is his second title. He now has. He's only 25 years old, and this is his second MotoGP title. So it's going to be very interesting. We're going to wait to see how the new season continues, and we're also going to see how Dorna Sports actually moves on with the season. Are they going to have a better streaming package, or is it going to be pretty much the same? Formula One, the F1 TV Live is very good. If you don't have the package, I would suggest maybe getting it, because you can stream all 20 of your favorite drivers on boards. You can also stream just the race, and then there's post race and pre race. So it's actually pretty good. It's not bad at all. That you get to be a lot closer to the racing than in previous years. And going into that, well, Max Verstappen was able to win the Formula One season, and the thing about that was he wasn't challenged all year, so that was kind of boring. That was kind of boring this year. He was not challenged at all. From mid-season, he basically, like that Red Bull RB19 was so strong, there was nothing anyone could do. Nothing anybody could do. And that made the season kind of boring. We had the Vegas race, which obviously the Vegas race definitely had some controversy, but in the end, the Vegas race went off without a hitch. So that's the difference. That's the difference in regards to how MotoGP season ended compared to the Formula One season. Max Verstappen was untouched because in the beginning of the season we had Sergio Perez was right beside Max Verstappen. We'll even look at the results. So I'm going to open up Wiki, and let's just go down to the results for Okay, let's just clear that here. So, okay. So yeah, you see the beginning of the season. Max was 1-2, 1-2, and who was on the opposite side when Max was second? It was Sergio Perez. So that was the first 4 races of the year. We had Bahrain and Saudi Arabia, Australia, and Azerbaijan, or commonly known as Baku. Actually, let me turn on the music. I didn't even turn on the music here. A little background music while I speak. Turn it down just in case it's too loud. Okay. Right. So Max Verstappen, as you see, ran away with the lead. Actually, let me check how this looks on our screen here. Okay. So I realize you guys can't see what I'm actually talking about. So I'm going to fix that. Oh, no, not there. Let me just, yeah. Oop. That's not what we want. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Let me delete that here. All right. So, you let me know in the chat, what did you think of last Formula One season? We're going to also be going through some of the drivers, what I thought, doing all the racing reviews of some of the drivers. There we go. Okay, so I'm just going to make this a little larger while we go through the Formula One season. All right, so that's fixed. All right, so as we see, the first season, Max Verstappen ran away in the beginning of the season with the lead. And then we had Sergio Perez. Sergio Perez, he was neck and neck with him, 1-2, 1-2. But then he kind of dropped off, and no one could explain why. By the end of the season, he still finished second in the points, but he wasn't able to replicate any of the success of Max Verstappen. He was trailing by a lot. A lot of other races, Fernando Alonso was doing really well at the beginning of the season here. As you see, he finished 4th in the Drivers' Championship. But the Sergio Perez, it was really baffling when he wasn't performing this season. And then, another thing, people thought Ferrari. Maybe Ferrari would have a turn when they hired Fred Vasseur. No, Charles Leclerc came 5th, and Carlos Sainz came 7th in the championship. So that's the real difference. It was actually kind of uneventful, the Formula One season. Once Max, by the summertime break, nothing changed. We pretty much knew Max was going to run away with the title, right? So it's just very interesting. Technically, when we see Max Verstappen he was incredible this year, you know? Like, there was no matching Max this year at all. And that's the thing. It's very, very interesting. Hopefully next year we're going to have a little bit more competition, but who knows? You know, who really knows? Who really knows, right? Another thing is, we need other teams to step up. Ferrari wasn't able really to step up. Aston Martin looked good in the beginning of the season, and then they dropped off. Like, if we look at the drivers, Fernando Alonso was 4th, and then, Lance Stroll was 10th. So they weren't really a threat after the beginning. See, Alonso podiumed 5 times by Monaco. But then after that, he podiumed only once for the rest of the season. So total drop-off by Aston Martin. Total drop-off. But we got to wait and see next year. One thing I will say, there was a lot of improved drivers, but there were certain drivers that definitely did not improve. And when we want to talk about improved drivers, I really think a driver that improved is Alex Albon. Alex Albon, definitely, he might be working himself into another seat. He might be working himself into another seat in Formula One. Basically, in the Williams this year, he made the Williams look like it was a top-class Mercedes. The way he was driving that Williams, he was getting the most out of the Williams this year. Similar to Oscar Piastri in the McLaren. Very. It was only his rookie season, but he looked like a very seasoned driver, right? So Alex Albon, I really think one of the teams like Ferrari or somebody might come calling. And remember, he used to race for Red Bull and he lost his seat. But I really think he's gonna get back. He's gonna get promoted. He really was fantastic at Red Bull this year. If we look at the drivers' championship, right? Where is he here? Yeah, he came 14th, but he had quite a few top 10 finishes. Okay, so you got to give him credit. Also, Oscar Piastri was another one. In his opening season, I'm looking for his points total here. He finished 9th. Okay, and Lando Norris finished 6th. So he still finished top 10 in points. He ahead of Lance Stroll, ahead of Gasly, and that is amazing in terms of his development. I think McLaren were kind of shocked by that. They were banking on, obviously, Lando Norris is improved performance, but when you see the performance of Oscar Piastri this year, it was remarkable, definitely. So that's something we'll definitely have to take into account. Now, let's get back to, we'll talk about MotoGP for a bit again. Now, see how we have Bagnaia here. So Bagnaia, yeah, he definitely won the championship. Jorge Martin came second. And the thing about it is, Jorge Martin, his riding style is going to win him a championship one day. Because Jorge Martin, he rides the bike very smooth. In terms of, he doesn't burn out his tires near the end of the race. He kind of glides into the turns, and so he doesn't wear tires down. So by the end of the race, he has a lot of grip, whereas other riders don't have a lot of grip. And I really think he's gonna find himself be able to win a championship in the next few years. He was a little aggressive, and in Valencia he went off track and then he crashed. But that's what you got to do when you want to win championships, right? You gotta push yourself to the limit. So we gotta congrats Francesco Bagnaia. He was consistent. But when we saw George Martin, also we gotta give a shout out to Zarco. Johan Zarco this year. I find he came 5th in the championship. And Johan Zarco he's so consistent. He can podium a lot. He did win one race this year, I think. Let me just go back here. Where is it? Oh, here he is. Yeah, so he won in Australia at Phillips Island this year, but he podiumed a number of times. 2, 3. He had like 6 or 7 podiums, Zarco, right? So I'm really thinking if Zarco can put it together, Zarco might be the first champion to win a MotoGP title without winning many races, but just stacking up the points. So that's something we really have to be watching out when it comes to Johan Zarco. Johan Zarco is that guy that just like he pushes, but sometimes he doesn't have a great start to his race, but his finish is amazing. So we can definitely look out for him in the future. One person I was disappointed in this year was Jack Miller. I thought Jack Miller had turned the corner. I know he left Ducati for KTM. Sorry, I'm just trying to get a picture of Jack Miller here. Yeah, I think I went too far down. Okay, here we go. So Jack Miller, I really thought Jack Miller was going to win more races this year. It was very shocking to me that after he left Ducati, I thought, okay, fresh start at KTM, but no. It didn't turn into any wins. He actually didn't have the greatest season. So that's something that he definitely has to improve on. And I don't know. I think MotoGP is keeping the same amount of races for next year. I think they had about 20. 20. Let's see how many races they had. They had 20 races this year. One race was canceled. I do remember that, but they did end up with 20 races. Kazakhstan, that had to be replaced. They were still working on the track, but it was an interesting season. MotoGP definitely has been here. MotoGP definitely this year, it was very competitive, very, very competitive. So we're hoping that basically MotoGP. Oh boy. So we're hoping MotoGP definitely comes into next year improved. Definitely. So, but you let us know in the comments what you thought about the MotoGP season, or who is your favorite rider? Who's your favorite rider in the MotoGP landscape? Like, you know, personally, it was Rossi for Redbet, but Rossi's retired. So, you know, we don't really have a favorite. We're just trying to produce content and produce news on both series. So we're not we're just following the racing as it is now. We're not trying to produce any particular or have any favoritism before any or to any riders. That's definitely what we're not trying to portray on. Definitely not what we're trying to portray here at Redbet. And we're definitely going to be doing more videos coming into the new year. We're going to be trying to do more live streams. Just so you know, a couple days, at least Friday, or if there's maybe a major news event, try to do maybe an after, like a post-race. We'll be doing like a post-race, like watch-along kind of, you know, where you can comment and we'll discuss all the events of, say, the latest Formula 1 race or MotoGP. And we're also looking at doing a Sunday night show because everybody knows racing is on the weekend, but by Sunday evening, all the series have concluded. Whether it's MotoGP, Formula 1, DTM, NASCAR, IndyCar, they've all concluded by, say, about 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in North America. So we're looking at that. We're looking at trying to expand. And so we're just trying to bring more racing videos, even more biographies on people within the racing world. Definitely trying to do that. And one thing that definitely you look out for is we'll be definitely doing a lot of more videos when it comes to both series in terms of MotoGP or Formula 1. We're just going to wait. But even in the off season, we still have videos we're producing in terms of racing biographies, or just along with we have questions that weren't asked in the 2023 and 2022 season. So let's look at some current news in Formula 1, and then we'll discuss. So we're going to pull up some of the news, most current news. Okay. One thing I definitely wanted to discuss. So Pirelli is the tire manufacturer for Formula 1. And the thing about Pirelli, it's great. Most of the time, we had some problems with tire degradation this year at, I think it was Qatar, right? So, other than that, but with F1, it would be nice maybe if we did, if F1 did some things to increase the competition. Maybe add another tire manufacturer when they used to have Bridgestone and Pirelli. Or, I know they don't want to necessarily add refueling, but something like a different tire manufacturer could increase competition slightly, because now you have to pick and choose which tire you feel works best. And that's something that you're not always going to get right. The sprint was a cool addition this year. I'm glad they only put it at some of the racing, at the races. They didn't do it at every race, because at every race it would have been maybe a little over the top. MotoGP went with sprint at every race, and that definitely was something where we have to take into account. We have to take into account what they were trying to achieve. More action just overall on the racing weekend. But the thing about it is, at every race, it's hard. It's hard on the teams. It's just hard in terms of setup, because you're setting up for a sprint race, which is half the distance of a real race. But the problem with that is then you have to set up for the real race, and if you have any damage, then you might receive, say, an engine penalty, which you wouldn't in the past. So that's the difference with this type of racing, sprint race, adding sprint racing and not having sprint racing. But I didn't mind the sprint racing. It was some fun sprint races, and it's very quick, so it's not something where you're sitting there for a long time. So that adds to the excitement, because drivers are going flat out, basically, as there's only half the race distance, so it's very quick that a sprint can end. All right, so we talked a little bit about the tires. Yeah, and see, that's the thing I was talking about. Zach Brown is saying here, McLaren can get any tension between Norris and Piastri. And that's the thing. There's only tension because Piastri turned out to be a good driver. See Piastri here, it's like... okay, I guess I can't. Yeah. Oh, there we go. This looks a lot better. So yeah, Piastri here, he's a good driver. And I don't think McLaren was expecting him to be as good as he was. They were expecting to cater to Lando Norris. But after Piastri started to compete, get podiums, I don't know, he didn't win a race, but he podiumed in his first rookie season. So they definitely have to look at next year. Are they going to prioritize one driver over the other? They're saying they're not. But what if Oscar Piastri's performance is lights out better than Lando Norris? Then how are they going to battle with that? Because Lando Norris, he's one of their top drivers and one of their mostly highly paid drivers, and they will have to contend with him being upset, or because I'm sure when they pitched him coming to McLaren, he was, saying, they let him know, you're going to be our number one priority. And he probably felt that because Danny Ricciardo was there, and now Danny Ricciardo's gone. Well, I mean, he still raced better than Danny Ricciardo, but now Oscar Piastri, his new teammate, is here. So that's the thing. We have to wait and see, is Piastri going to continue this climb, or in terms of making good races, making podiums, or even winning a race? That would be definitely give McLaren a lot of problems to think about, but good problems, because if you have two good drivers, at least they're going to be competing for points every week, and maybe they're going to bring you a constructors title or higher up in the constructors. So it's something that you really want to harness if you have two good drivers. Usually there's one driver where another driver, they're good, but they're not as good as the main driver who's being focused on, such as, say, Max Verstappen or Lewis Hamilton at Mercedes. Yeah. But definitely let us know what you think. We'll be here we're probably going to try to stay on for about an hour. And we're going to be talking, we'll just keep talking in regards to Formula One news and just Formula One commentary. If there's any rumors or anything that anybody's heard, we'll definitely get into that. And that's the thing. I'm going to talk about Fred Vasseur here. We have a video on the channel in regards to Ferrari at the beginning of the season where we're like, can Fred Vasseur turn it around for Ferrari? The answer this year was no. He did not turn it around for Ferrari. Ferrari, I wouldn't say they took a step backwards, but they were not who they usually are. Ferrari is always, dominant, not dominant, but at least second. This year, Aston Martin won races, McLaren won a number of races, and they didn't seem to have the top speed power or enough grip in the corners compared to, say, their other competitors. And then we had, a couple errors by Leclerc. He had some crashes this year. So that's something that they're going to have to work on the performance of their car. The SF, I think it was called the SF23, their model this year. They definitely have to work on that in terms of... They definitely have to work on that. And they have to see if they will be able to at least compete more closely with Red Bull. Maybe actually tie Red Bull in terms of performance. Because Red Bull the past 3 years are lights out. Nobody can catch them. Ferrari looked like the year before that they had a little bit of a spark. But going into this year, it was more of the same. If we look at Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz, that's MotoGP. So if we go here, so Charles Leclerc, he didn't win a race. Carlos Sainz, he won one race in Singapore. Okay. They both had quite a number of top 10s or top 5s. Leclerc finished higher. He had 3 podiums, where Carlos Sainz had 3. They both had 3 podiums, but Carlos Sainz finished lower because he finished lower in more races than Charles Leclerc. So that's the thing about this is, I think Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz are competent drivers, but Ferrari has to stop bundling. A couple times this year, they also bundled the pit strategy, along with not having the performance in their car to give Leclerc and Carlos Sainz giving them a chance to be able to compete. So that's what they got to work on next year. They definitely have to work on that, because we don't usually see them losing podiums to McLaren of all teams, or losing podiums to Aston Martin. Not that Aston Martin and McLaren aren't quality teams, but Ferrari's, usually one step better. But lately, it hasn't transpired that way. And that's the thing. They need to pick it up, because as we see, their competition now has changed, right? So they can't expect to just rely on past performance, right? Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure the screen's okay here. Yeah, so Ferrari definitely has to step it up. They didn't get it all this year. They weren't able to continue and add any type of substance this year. It was actually kind of depressing, because it looked like they turned the corner last year. Maybe they found a little bit more spark, but in the end, they didn't. They didn't find any spark. So we're hoping that next year there's more competitive from some other teams. It looked good in the beginning of the year with the Aston Martin podiuming, and also you had the McLaren podiuming. So it looked like maybe we'd have a challenge for the Red Bull, but it turned out it wasn't really a challenge for the Red Bull at all. No challenge at all. So hopefully next year that those things change, but we're not gonna know, So all we can do is hope. Also, MotoGP, it definitely gave us a really good competition this year, down to the last race. Really good, and we had some really good races. India was a really good race. There's some really exciting races this year for MotoGP. Really exciting races. Dutch GP was great. Then we had Silverstone. Thai was so hot. That was when George Martin was almost collapsing. It was so hot. We definitely had some great races in MotoGP this year. I wonder if do people think maybe they should not allow some of the, like they had the ride height devices and they have the some of the electronics, the aero, and some people are saying they weren't really feeling that. So do you think they should maybe ban those from MotoGP and keep it more about the bike instead of some of these add-ons? Let me know. But we're gonna shut this down for now, and we're gonna come back maybe later tonight, or we're gonna start this stream next week. So we hope you enjoyed. This is our test. We're doing our live stream, and we're gonna be doing our live stream news show. So please like and subscribe. And Redbet signing off. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll be back next week.